Open, open, open. Oh, look at that. Man, that's amazing. You would think that we just start the show and wake up 10 minutes before the show starts and then get this thing started. Come on, man. Open, open, open. I'm kind of like a kid in a candy store. Been up since like 5 o'clock this morning waiting for the show to start. And now it's finally here. All right, it's the Erskin Music Show. It's the Thursday edition. So you know already on the Thursday edition, we are looking at, getting back into this thing. We got a special guest coming on today. A special. I don't even know how many ampersands I put in there. Special guest today. We got Chester Goad. He's going to be on the line here in just a second. We got some folks who are already tuning in because they know about the special guest. My man, Scott Kimsey. Hey, bang. What's up, folks? We're finally reunited. Chester, well, I don't know if we've ever been in the same place together, but we will be today, virtually, so to speak. It's the Erskin Music Show, Thursday edition. Want to welcome all the people from Facebook Live. Thank you guys for tuning in today. There's an international audience there as well as YouTube. Love it so much when I see some of those names pop up. I've been receiving international calls, and so you guys don't necessarily need to call me, but you can reach out. And then for the folks that are watching on Twitch or listening on Twitch or gaming on Twitch or whatever you guys are doing on Twitch, we love you guys. We love you, Twitch. You guys have not been trying to implant viruses on the show lately, and so that's big thumbs up. So what's up, Scott? Glad you could tune in this morning. It's going to be a special edition. Two guys that you know pretty well, so feel free to make some comments. And in fact, when I tell you guys the comment section is turned on, I really do mean the comment section is turned on, and your comments, the snarkier, the better. I would just say, probably have the best audience comment section of any show that I know. This audience is so amazing. You guys pick up on things quickly. There's about a 10-second delay, but you guys are still interacting. And so I appreciate that. The more comments, the better. It makes the show just that much smoother. We've started a little, changing it up just a little bit because in the Central Standard Time here, it is 8:30-ish. And I was checking to see, most people get to work around 9 o'clock. And so they're at work, they don't want to cheat their employer. And so they're not necessarily tuning in the show. There's a couple of people who right before they go into work, they're listening to the show, or right as they're going into work, they're listening to the show. It's like, hey, good morning, had to sign off, got to go to work. So I wanted to see if we could start at 8:30 so that people who are having drive time, they could be listening, not watching. Don't watch. Watch the cars. Listen to the show. People who are having drive time, they are able to get on the first part of the show. And folks who aren't already at work, and then folks who perhaps don't even know about the show, who are just like, hey, what's the show? What are you guys doing? It's the Erskin Music Show. If you didn't know, now you know. We got a special message this morning. We got to get Baby Yoda on here before we get our devotion. Baby Yoda. It's not Baby Yoda. If you watch the show, it's Grunku, but that's okay. It's okay. Baby Yoda's got to talk to you this morning. Get that guy some good music called Only Love. That was my song called Only Love. It's the Erskin Music Show. So yeah, some comments popping in all international this morning. We love that. Tatenda. Hey, we just had a writer's retreat. It was in America, but you need to come to it next year. Book a ticket. We need to figure out how to get you here. Constance, thank you guys for joining in this morning. We love it when we see the comments. Oh, yay. We love it. Folks that are tuning in this morning. Ato Apueto. I didn't say your name right. Sorry, bro. But we'll get it next time. We need pronunciations here My name is Erskin Anavatarte, and I am used to my name being messed up all the time. And so I do apologize if I've messed your name up. But as I said before, we got an international audience because we travel internationally, except for last year. We're going to get back on that this year. We got plans to be in Africa. Hopefully, we will be in another country. I won't say his name right now because, you know, the government pays attention to those kind of things. And doing some Erskine Music International. So, just going to wait a little bit longer, praying through. Just pray for our friends in India. You know, for the folks who are in Asia, shout out to you guys as well. For the folks that are in South America, Latin America, we love you guys. It's an international show. It's a diverse show. We chop it up. We don't shy away from any of the topics that are in the news. And so we talked about Israelis and Palestinians yesterday. And you can go back and check my commentary out on that. If you missed that show, we also talked about women in ministry. I had a brother that came on who disagreed with me. He said, "You're wrong." He said, "Oh, you're wrong. I want to come and tell you in your face." My good friend Terrence Gaston was on yesterday, and he was sharing with us, you know, just clarifying some perspectives about women in ministry. And so we talk about all of that. We talked about, did we get around to the millennial story? I don't think we got around to the millennial story. I'll have to get around to that some other day. But apparently, you know, millennials and other people, they don't like Jesus anymore. And so they're not going to church or doing any of those things. But we'll talk about that some other day. New recent study has come out. Get to my devotion really quickly here this morning. Oh man, that's the wrong thing. All right. Oh yeah, we got to zoom ahead. That's the sound effect. Zooming ahead for the devotion today. We are coming from Table Talk Magazine. I use that devotion a lot. It's one that I read from, the ministry that we support. Here we go. The late great R.C. Sproul and his associates come from 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 21 through 26. This is emphasis on verses 24 through 26. Good morning to all you. God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the parts that lack it, that there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. Our devotion this morning goes on to say, rightly balancing unity and diversity is challenging, but necessary. An unhealthy emphasis on unity can lead to an uniformity of thought and talents that makes it impossible for a group to employ a full array of strengths. An unhealthy emphasis on diversity can fragment an organization into warring factions that render it incapable of accomplishing its mission. This is true in the secular world, but even more true in the church. John Calvin, ever heard of that guy? John Calvin says this: nothing, however, is better fitted to promote harmony than this community of interest. When everyone feels that by the prosperity of others, he is proportionally enriched, and by their poverty impoverished. If we rightly understand our need for one another and all our godly diversity, harmony will follow. Let us remember that we cannot fulfill God's purpose without one another. That's the devotional thought for today. Let me freestyle for just a second here. We have a diversity of folks who watch this show, a diversity of things that we are doing on this show. We're doing music on this show. We're doing cultural commentary on this show. And there's a lot of contributions that people make to the show. You, yourself, you're watching, you're involved in the show. And it's all so important that we recognize those gifts, that we recognize the Erskine Music Show is here to exist for the glory of God, for the advancement of the kingdom of God. And yet we can do that in so many different ways. I've been challenging pastors as I've had an opportunity to speak to pastors in Memphis and other places to really tap into this era and this generation that we live in. It may seem statistically like, man, people aren't going to church anymore. People aren't loving the Lord. But I can assure you, behind the scenes, and sometimes quite forthcoming into the scenes, God is working revival. He's just not doing it here in America. He's doing it in other places in the world. And there's some phenomenal, miraculous things that are going on. And so let's not relegate our understanding of what God is doing, or our understanding of gifts, or our understanding of the present power of God and how he's working in his people, to just what it is that we see with our eyes here in America. God is doing so many tremendous things. He's using so many gifts. You know, as I started getting into music more and more, I started realizing that oftentimes some of the most important people are not the people who are on the platform. It's the people who are making all the things production wise happen on the platform. You wouldn't see the live stream if it wasn't for them. You wouldn't have the lyrics in the congregation if it wasn't for them. You wouldn't have the videos that fly in. You wouldn't have the lights. You wouldn't have the sound, all those different things. And so we often have a tendency to elevate platform ministry to an unbiblical degree. And sometimes we have a tendency to ignore the very real contributions of those who are working behind the scenes to make things happen. How does that work in the diversity of gifts? I love what they said there in the Table Talk magazine. Fantastic. Get it if you don't already have it. But yeah, sometimes when you get groupthink together and a bunch of people who are just the same, and this strikes the note of diversity that I think we need to accomplish here more in America. You get a bunch of people who all look the same, talk the same, they all homeschool their kids, they all do the same, blah, 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 blah. And then you have uniformity of thought. And then so people come in there like, we don't homeschool. We don't have our family structured like that. We don't watch those kind of shows. We don't do those kind of things. And it's kind of like, I'm an outsider. And so therefore I'm not as important a Christian. And so we want to make sure that we don't have that, as well as we don't want to have a church that is just built on, well, everybody just do whatever the heck you want to do. And you want to do that? Okay, fine. You want to do it? We'll all just do whatever we want to do. And there's no unity whatsoever. And so living between those extremes is really the order of our day. Thank you so much for Table Talk. Thank you for that devotion today. We got to speed ahead because we got a special guest. He's like, where's my doorbell sound? You can't come in. Chester, you can't come in without ringing the doorbell, but I got to ring the doorbell for you. No. Okay, if there's no doorbell, in the absence of a doorbell, we are going to have dolphins. And no dolphins are harmed or injured or in any way maligned in this show because we love dolphins. We just hate cats. All right. So, all right. Good morning to all the people. Comment section turned on. There we go. Chester is coming on even now with the dolphins.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I love the dolphins, man.
Good morning. The dolphins is a very special treat. When you get dolphins, you know you are just this upper crust right now.
Oh man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I've been literally waiting for the show since like 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh
my goodness. Well,
I've been studying and I've just been like, okay, the show is coming in an hour, 2 hours. Okay, all right. Now it's here and I feel good.
I've been looking forward to coming on with you. You're doing some great stuff, a lot of creative stuff.
Well, we have been trying to effort getting you on here for several months now.
I know. I had to cancel the last one. And yeah. So
anyway, but you're here. It's I'm here.
Hey, I wanted to go back to something you just said because I was listening.
Okay.
And you were talking about the diversity of the church and all those different things. And it made me think there's a scripture, Ephesians, we are God's handiwork. Created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. And my favorite part about that particular scripture is in advance for us to do, which just like lends itself to we have a purpose. We all have a purpose, no matter what that purpose is, and our purposes are just as diverse, So anyway, I just had to throw that.
No, that's what this show is all about. You're a special guest. You came on here he's already rolling. He's already warmed up and he's ready to go. The reason why you're warmed up and you're ready to go because you, sir, are a professional. In so many categories here. We got, what are you using? Acting. We got writing. We got comedian. Did I see you directing some things? What?
Yeah.
Oh, so he's a man of many talents. But before we do any of that, say good morning to Scott. He's on the, well, he's not.
Oh, good morning, Scott.
Yeah, Scott is on the comment section here, and he's so excited that we're both on here together.
When I was in college, when we were in college, Scott and I used to stay up really late, and we would try to come up with just crazy jokes. I remember one time we sat around in the middle of the night trying to make jokes about all the states. So we went through all, what did Delaware, her New Jersey, that kind of thing, those corny jokes. And we just stayed up all night with a friend doing that. It was fun.
You guys were practicing dad jokes before you were dads. So
absolutely. 100%.
I love it. Yeah. You got to do something in college. There's just so much free wasted time there.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to have something to do. Yeah. But no, man, so great to have you on the show. Wanted to, well, I guess say hello to Meg, who's on the show watching.
Hey, Meg.
She's down in Texas. And so we've got folks literally, Tatenda is watching from Africa. And so we have an international audience that's here this morning. And we're so excited that everybody's here. This is Chester Goad. Tell everybody how we met one another, because that's a little different.
Yeah, well, I heard about you before I ever met you. And actually, Scott, who is present in the room right now, he had shared a lot about you. I think you guys went to seminary together. Y'all went to Southwestern, right? And that's a happy, fun seminary. I went briefly to Southern.
Okay, the Southern
Briefly.
Seminary.
Briefly.
The Southern. He went to the Southern Seminary. I'm going to give us a preposition of something. Our
I did it through
Southwestern Seminary. Our.
yes. I did it through is that kind of like the Ohio State University? You have
I think when they originally chartered Southern, because a Southern grad was telling me this the other day, when they originally chartered Southern Seminary, they put in the charter the Southern Baptist Seminary.
Seriously, wow, okay.
I did not know that. They were really proud of that, kind of like the Ohio State, but
Gotcha. Anyway, yeah, I went there briefly, but when you guys were in school together, I remember Scott talking to me about this great guy that he had met, who was a great Christ follower. Who I think y'all played basketball together and some things and stuff like that. And he had really shared all that with me. And then I don't remember exactly how we connected, except for we ended up actually meeting in person at Catalyst, which is a Christian leadership conference down in Atlanta, Georgia. I think Gwinnett County, Georgia. So.
Yeah. So news of Chester, news of Erskin was out there in the Ethernet and in the interweb, and conversations were beginning to happen. And it's kind of funny because you can kind of hear a name, and sometimes that name kind of goes off the radar. But I heard your name about probably the same time you heard my name. And then we ended up at a conference together. I don't even think that we knew that we were going to be at the same conference together. No. And we recognized, hey, wait, you're here. You're there. Okay, let's meet one another. And that was the Catalyst conference, Andy Stanley's conference down in Georgia, and it was on Christian leadership.
And then we went out for guacamole after.
Guacamole. That's when you forge a friendship.
That's right.
If you have chips and guacamole, you will be just fine.
Yeah. I'm a little addicted to bread, though. That's part of my problem. Yeah.
Okay. All about that carb life.
yeah. I'm telling you. Well, at least it's something Jesus and I have in common.
There you go. Bread
in common. He likes to break it. I like to bake it. Jesus was kind of the forerunner with bread. He introduced the very first all-you-can-eat bread basket on the side of a mountain with 5,000 people. Remember that?
I do remember that.
One of his early miracles. That's right. So see, bread
practically did it twice.
Yeah,
for emphasis. And then
so I know those all-you-can-eat bottomless bread baskets. They're good with me. Jesus was all about those. So
I wonder if the FDA had been packaging manna, like in the Old Testament, if they had packaged Jesus's bread, what kind of nutritional ingredients. Any more of these days, I'll go to the store and I'll pick up the back and I'll look at the nutritional. How many carbs here? How many sugar? Okay. I wonder what the USDA would have put on Jesus' bread. What quality that would have been.
I don't know. Jesus' bread is perfect.
It would have been perfect.
It would have just been perfect.
That's all you got to put. Barcode. Okay, perfect. All right, scan that thing. Let's get out of here.
That's right.
But yeah, man, so great to see you. So great to have you on the show here today. Scott is saying if you guys would have studied a little bit more, you wouldn't have taken you 7 or 8 years. His comment.
Yeah, it took me a little while to finish up school. Is that what he's hinting at around at there? Or
I don't know who it took longer to finish school. I can't make fun of anybody because I spent 10 years at Southwestern.
Okay. Yeah.
I was on that 10-year program.
You beat me then.
And I remember about 7 years into that degree, I was just so frustrated. I was like, this is taking me. I'm 7 years into this program.
Yeah.
And it's going to take me another 3 years before I graduate. And I was kind of complaining, a little belly aching, a little whining to one of my professors. And he's looked at me and he said, well, you could live another 3 years and not have a degree, or you could live another 3 years and have a degree. So which one do you want? Shut your mouth, Erskin. Get your degree.
Hey, you beat me on the seminary degree though, because I didn't finish. I had always wanted that experience, and so I signed up, and I was very interested in, at the time they called it missiology, missions work, and so I signed up as part of that program, and I did enjoy my classes, but I just didn't enjoy that experience, to be quite honest.
Well, truth be told, since we're telling the truth up in this thing, Hey, folks from Southwestern, I love
Hey,
you.
there's great
anybody-
people out Southern. I love.
Yeah.
it wasn't for me. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if there's anybody here from Southern or Southwestern, hey, we love the Southern Baptist seminaries. You guys are doing such a great job, fantastic job. It just sometimes is a little bit.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have that desire, and you just made a comment here that I'll circle back to in just a minute about missiology, but it's one thing to have that desire to prepare for ministry and to figure out what exactly that's going to look like in your life and family's life and ministry. Then you get out into the real world, and sometimes you look back and you say, I don't know that there was ever a class on this, a book on this, a subject matter on this. And this is kind of really where we find ourselves in life. It's like there's a lot of things that we haven't prepared for. Like you're raising kids, and it's like, what page manual was that on? Like how to raise these kids? Like financial struggle, pandemic. What chapter was that when we deal with coronavirus? And it's got it's like you can do it's the art of improvisation. You are trying to figure some things out on the fly, and that's much of life. And so we're thankful for our education. But I wanted to circle back to what you were saying on the missiology tip. You were wanting to, look at missions and what it looks like to be a missionary.
Yeah.
And what kind of transitioning to our conversation today, and what you are doing today, finding outlets and areas of expression in our culture. How are you finding, that desire that started with, hey, I might want to look at going overseas or going somewhere in America and being a missionary, being on mission for Christ. How are you finding expression in what you're doing these days?
Oh man, that's an interesting question. For me, and
I'll get your information up there instead of mine.
Oh, that's okay. It all comes down to, a desire to be with people. I got like a little reverb there. I don't know what's going on all of a sudden. I'm hearing.
Check 1 2 1 2.
Myself twice. Twice. Echo.
Okay.
Just as we started. Y'all hear that?
You sound fine to me.
Okay, as long as they don't hear that, I don't want to annoy anybody. But for me, it was really all about. It's really all about just connecting with people, and I think creatives are drawn to be around people. And so, I was exploring different ways how that might manifest in my life. And missions was certainly something I was interested in, connecting with people and loving people for God and sharing Jesus with people. But, you kind of have to find those places where you fit. And for me as a creative, creatives often feel like we don't fit. We're just unique and different, and people don't really get us sometimes, and things like that. And people not everybody's a creative, but what I have to keep remembering is we are made in the image of God, and God was creative. He's the most creative being, and He creates us all, like I mentioned before, with a purpose in advance. And so I started looking for, okay, what are my gifts? And how can I apply those in different places? And I'm one of these people. I love everything. I want to do so many. I have this list of things that I want to do. So, I want to have podcasts. I had 3 podcasts. I just released a new one, a brand new podcast. Want to write a book, wrote a book. And I want to blog. I wrote blogs. And then I started doing acting. Want to do acting and things like that. Well,
you're doing it all. Just keep going, man.
so then I had some friends who came to me and they said, how did you do this acting thing? I'm really interested in acting. And to get to your point, all these things we want to do, whether it's mission, everything is missions anyway. Everything is missions. And we have to get out of our minds that you don't have to sign a piece of paper and have a title that says missionary to be a missionary. Everything is
anymore these days. You can just call yourself a missionary, because I call myself a house church missionary.
Okay, absolutely. And that's to my point. When my friends, my friends came to me recently and they're like, how do I become an actor? I want to act. And I said, then you just do it. If I said, if you keep talking about it and you don't do it, you're not that. I said, you can't say you're an author until you've written something. You can't say you're a podcaster until you have a podcast. You can't say you're an actor until you've been doing, acting and performing, And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go do these things and we'll see what happens. And it's been a real blessing. Absolutely. Shine that light wherever you find yourself, Scott. Exactly. Wherever you are.
There's some truth in the booth today.
And serving God can be fun. And I think a lot of people, you were talking about millennials. It makes me very sad. You're talking about millennials and how they aren't connecting, and there's some research that's coming out that's saying they're just not connecting with the current church. And we can have maybe we can talk about that another time. But I
Just
feel
give
like,
us a brief power
yeah,
up on that one.
yeah. But I feel like it's up to people to draw people. And so there's lots of ways that we can draw people to the church and to be interested in God, and it doesn't always necessarily have to be fun. I'm drawn to the fun side. Not everybody's drawn to the fun side. Some people are drawn to the more theological side, and that's very, very important. You got to be sound, got to be solid. But
sound anyway. Theology, the Puritans, Jonathan Edwards.
That's right.
No smiling here.
No smiling. Oh man, I gotta smile. I gotta find things to do. I hope I answered your question in that.
No, you did. We're both creatives, and so I don't even know how we would keep this thing on the track if I didn't have notes. But just kind of going back to some of the things that you said, I took the spiritual gifts inventory when I was at seminary. I think we had to do Myers-Briggs. It was like personality thing. And I remember somebody coming up to me afterward that was, I guess, somewhat in authority, and they were saying, we kind of been looking at your where you've charted on this scale, and we're just wondering if you're really supposed to be here. And I don't know if that was I could take that a number of different ways, but I just remember coming away from that and just being really frustrated because I thought, to go along with the sense of, okay, I'm like one of the only black guys here, so like that's weighing in on me. I don't necessarily feel that comfortable at Southwestern, not because I'm one of the few black people that's here, but this culture and this environment is foreign to me. Like, I don't know these people. In some ways, I don't understand why there's theological education on the Hill, but like there's lost and dying people around us that we don't seem to be interacting with. And so I didn't understand the culture. And then I have some joker come up to me and tell you like, yeah, your personality didn't really seem like you'd be like a leader in ministry. And I'm thinking, I don't know what the hell that even means.
And that's crazy though, because you are so much of a leader, Erskin.
And that's so interesting. I think one of those things that I've kind of had to discover throughout the years is that you allow God to kind of shape the contours of your life, and you allow, you surrender to what it is that he's doing, and he's going to put you in all these places. So now when people say, well, how did you get into acting? Because I just got into acting classes and went and auditioned and started doing different things. And how did you get into music? Well, I just started singing, and then I wrote it, a very poor album. And then after that, I wrote another album. And there's just, so how did you get to where you're at? You just, like you were talking about, you just do what it is that you do, and God will put you in the place where he wants you to be. And, there are times in ministry, even as a leader, even as an associate pastor, I was kind of like, I don't really know. Like, I don't even know what the heck I'm doing. I just read the Bible and just tell people stuff. And like, I love the people and I love what it is that I'm doing, but I feel weird. And I've, at times I felt weird.
Yeah.
Because we're creatives.
I think that must be something that we feel, I'm sure everybody feels weird every now and then, but I think as a creative, we feel that a lot. We just feel kind of out of place. But there's something you said a second ago made me think, first of all, you have done a great job of going out into places. I have seen you on the sidewalk in Nashville singing. Man, to put yourself out there, and those creatives have to put themselves out there. And I've been really impressed and proud of you. I am naturally, people don't realize this. This is the truth. They may not think. I am a shy person. I struggle with clinical anxiety. I deal with these things. So it's obviously reasonable for me to be on here today, right? This is like immersion
you are
therapy
not so
for me.
Uncommon, my friend. You
This
are
is
not
like
so
immersion
uncommon.
therapy for me, where they get the person who's scared of heights and push him out of a plane, or something. But when you feel compelled to do something and that's within your gift area, there's a responsibility to find platforms and places to do that, like you have done, going into all parts of the world, but also just standing on a sidewalk down there in Nashville. And we all know when we're different places and we see people standing on the sidewalk where it's a little uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable for somebody. You were shining right there on the sidewalk, sharing Jesus with people, and playing music, and also speaking the word. I saw you doing that. And
we gonna preach too.
Yeah, you're gonna share the word. Well, so taking that a little different direction, in all these places that I've found myself, even as shy as I am, and I really am, a lot of people won't think that, but I am. But so let's say I'm on a set somewhere for a TV show, and let's be very clear, all my roles are like super tiny roles. It's like, how do I even end up here in this place? You might see me for a minute. I might say 2 lines.
Website below for those of you who are watching.
Oh yeah. So, but I have forged some of the best relationships and friendships out of those set experiences and out of those podcast interviews and out of stand-up relationships with people in places that I sometimes look around and I'm like, should I even be here in this place? What I'm saying? I don't know that I should be here, and then I'm reminded that Jesus went all manner of places and was criticized for being around all manner of people. Well, you know what? I have to be clear. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people ought not be around me because sometimes I can be my own trouble, create my own trouble. But I just feel like God puts us in these unique places to meet people and build relationships with people. And that's one of the things I have loved about all of this. So if nothing comes of any of it, of this stand-up, of acting, of podcasts or whatever, these relationships, I wouldn't take anything for them, because God's given me opportunities to talk about him and share and build relationships. So,
and I mean, that's the key word there. You talked about relationships. It just comes down to that. I want to go back to something that you said, because it reminded me of kind of, you get a little better perspective, as they say, historically. Hindsight is 20/20. You can look back on some things. You can think, oh, that's what was going on then. I wasn't able to interpret it back then correctly, but I can interpret that now and figure out what's going on here. But people have asked me, just about everybody's asked me, so the last year, the pandemic, how has that affected you? You travel, you do music. The music industry has been shut down by and large. There's been no large concerts, any of those things. And I tell people that it was probably one of the busiest years. I was busier last year during the pandemic than I am this year with sort of the lessening of the pandemic. And people are just like, how did that even happen? And I tell people, I'm going to give all the glory to God. But I think one of the things that happened is I started out so small in this ministry that like only a few people knew about me, and they were my friends. And I did such small events. And I tell people all the time, my secret to booking is not a secret at all. I just make things up. And they look at me like, what are you talking about? I literally go to people and I'll say, hey, have you ever thought about, or what would happen if, or people come to me and they're like, hey, would you be willing to? And I'm like, yes. So 95% of the events that I do, they don't exist. So last year, when there were events that didn't exist, I just continued to go to people and say, hey, have you guys ever thought about doing a camp this way? Or have you guys thought about doing And so that would spring into other ideas. And it's kind of one of those things where you look back over the course of your life and it's like, okay, I can see what God is doing. I like to play with Legos when I was a kid. I apparently like to make things. When I was in pastoral ministry, I was like, Sunday school curriculum, that's for wimps. Let's just create a whole class. And so I started writing curriculum. I write some of the curriculum for our homeschool, for our church plant. We don't need any curriculum. We have the Bible. So it's kind of like one of those things where I'm always creating stuff. And as a creative, like writing songs, we had a songwriter retreat last week. You kind of find that zone where it's just like, no, we don't need to necessarily do anything that anybody else has done. God has made us creative, so let's go and do it. So I love the fact that you are involved in so many things, podcast 1, 2, 3, 4, all the different things that you are doing.
No. Oh man, I can appreciate that so much. And you're right, you got to make those opportunities. I got to say, my mentor, I have different mentors in my life, but one of my mentors is a Christian guy. His name is Rick Roberts, and he is my stand-up acting coach. People don't realize if you're gonna do stand up, you need to have a coach. You got to figure out. You can't just go out and say. People think I can just get up there and tell a story and be funny. Maybe
just
you're
be funny,
person, but that's not going to work in a stand up place. So I had to learn all of this. But one of the things that he said is that during the pandemic, that was his busiest time. Just like you have said, he created a world to live in during that moment. He created a platform. He did more shows, Zoom stand up shows, which is very hard because live is more fun because you can connect with people and you can see their face and all these different things. Zoom is hard. But he talked about that. What I did during the pandemic was I said, these are things I need to learn that I've wanted to learn for a long time. And God has allowed me this time to learn more about these things. So I started, more coaching classes. I did more acting coaching classes. I did stand-up coaching classes. I joined a stand-up group. I joined a new Bible study. There are all manner of stuff. The pandemic is horrible, but through that, God has used that. He can use a pandemic to strengthen his people, So
Well,
anyway, yeah.
This show is the derivative of that. I remember for the actual month that I did stay at home, I started thinking to myself, I'm all about people. Like I'm kind of more extroverted in the sense that I've got to be around people. One of my hardest times that I've ever had is when I'm not around people and I'm required to do a job and I'm just like, I can't exist because I've got to be around people because I feed off of their energy and their conversation. And so I said, how can I be around people even though I can't be around people? And the Lord just started impressing upon me, like, you have this phone, you have an opportunity to interact with people. And so the first couple of shows were terrible, but it gave me a way to interact with people. And then I found some technology that helps us to be able to stream this. And so that I have fallen into that and I've really enjoyed it. I don't do the Erskin Music Show because there's any big meritorious financial return from it. I do it because it gives me an opportunity to interact with the public and to have conversations and see people literally from all around the world and interact with them in ways that I would not otherwise have or even thought of had there not been a pandemic.
And you're in your element and you're doing something that you have been called to do. Like you're being creative, and creatives, when we're in our element, man, we're super happy when we're in that moment. It takes a lot for me to get there sometimes. But it's definitely uplifting to see all the stuff that people did during the pandemic. I was making some little goofy films, little even 30-second, 1 minute little stupid films and stuff, and writing jokes and just doing all manner of stuff. And I don't know, it was a lot of fun. So, and honestly, it made us spend more time with our families too. Creatives are out and about a lot, and so it was really good to have that time too.
Absolutely. I've recently had to do some trips where my family is not with me. And it's been this sort of weird sensation. It's like, where's my family at? Oh, they're back in Nashville. Because we were able to travel together a lot last year. And then we were able to spend a lot of time together. And, we started having cookouts outside a lot last year. And it was just a great time. I don't know that there has ever been a time for somebody like myself that travels so much that's just afforded to you where people almost expect you to stay at home with your family. Like you're in trouble if you don't stay at home with your family. It's like, this is a gift from the Lord.
Yeah. That's what made stand-up really hard, though, is because everything closed down and there were just no opportunities to go and perform anywhere, like open mics and things like that. That's why I was so thankful. We have a local place here in town. Oh, you need to come and play this place. I need to talk to the owners.
See, that's how things happen. You're watching
Angela. Yeah. But Grinder House Coffee Shop is now one of Tennessee's. It's on the Tennessee Music and Arts Pathway. It's a singer-songwriter spot. And
I'll be there.
Yeah, they bring
big in. Coming.
It's like the Bluebird Cafe of the middle of our area, the plateau. And so people come in. They've had people from all over the world. We need to get you here. But anyway, they've allowed me a platform to do stand up. I host shows. I do stand up in between shows. You and I could do a show together almost. That'd be a lot of fun.
Stories and songs, man. Stories and songs. Look at that.
That'd be so much fun.
We are literally, if you're watching this show, this is literally how my life goes. Like I talk to other creatives and I talk to other gatekeepers and say, have you ever thought about, hey, you should, and then it happens.
Yeah. That's the way it works.
Well, I have some notes here. I hadn't followed them a bit because we've just been freestyling this whole time, but it does kind of segue to something that I wanted to talk to you about. And that is, you're involved in so many things. What are some of the current projects that you've worked on? I was going through some of your short films and some of your demo reels. It's like you have been on so many different things. What are you currently working on? And then I'll, maybe talk to you about some of your favorite projects that you've worked on.
Yeah. Let's see. I have a new podcast that just dropped in April. We did a little differently. We dropped the entire season at once. So we spent a lot of time, again, pandemic time, doing interviews with people. And those are some really cool ones. If you are interested in either clean, family-friendly, faith-based entertainment type of stuff, that's the type of people. Yeah, that's absolutely. I'm going to have you on the podcast in season 2, I'm hoping.
Hey, give me a shout out on the comment section there if you are interested in some clean family entertainment coming your way.
Yeah, That's awesome. So there's that. That's called Film Fresh, and you can find that on iTunes, really anywhere, iTunes or any other podcast platform. And I got to thank my friend Jared Easley. Jared Easley he's just an awesome Christian guy, but he is co-founder of something called Podcast Movement, which is the largest podcast organization in the world. And they're actually going to have their conference in Nashville coming up in August, by the way.
Everybody has a conference in Nashville. What are the dates? Oh, I know. We'll go offline and we'll talk about
first week of August. But anyway,
I'm in town.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. He and I co-hosted this Film Fresh podcast together, where we're just highlighting people who are out trying to do things that families can watch or listen to together. I had a friend tell me a while back that said she was trying to watch a Netflix show with her 80-year-old grandmother, and she's like, "Don't ever try that," because it was a bad, failed experience, and so it's like, okay, let's highlight people who are doing positive things. So there's that. And then aside from acting, I've also jumped into the stand-up stuff, and I'm going to be competing this summer. I'm really nervous with 20-something other people from across the country up in Indianapolis.
Whoa.
In July. It's called the Clean Comedy Challenge.
Okay, here we go.
We'll be performing like 4 times, and they'll pick a winner. It's kind of like sort of like an American Idol kind of thing. It's the Clean Comedy Challenge.
Okay.
Gonna have celebrity judges and all that. So
yeah.
So there's that. Yeah. Oh, and I just released I wrote and produced and directed a short film called Numbers, which nobody had ever really, I looked around and nobody had ever really highlighted the story of a minister, like the everyday ins and outs of stuff that a minister does and deals with, from counseling sessions to different people in the church, different things like that, and their own personal struggles and things. And so I wrote it with the idea of a TV concept. And so I produced that, and that was just released, but right now it's released to the festival circuit.
Okay.
And so it's in festival mode. But this is a good and a bad. I had somebody approach me from faith-based TV network world who was interested in possibly turning this into a TV series.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was really cool and super encouraging. And then like 3 weeks later, that particular individual had left that network, and I was like, what does this mean for me? And he's like, well, wah, wah, So, but I was so encouraged by that there's opportunities that people are actually interested in that. So
yeah. All right, let's camp for just a second, because you said something that I think is going to be powerful to the people.
Okay.
You have put some projects out there, and you have gone to some of the gatekeepers, and they have come back, and sometimes they have told you no.
Yep.
No. How do you maybe they didn't say it that aggressively. Maybe
no.
A little kinder way of saying it. But we're all gonna, as creatives, we kind of have to put some things out there. Mm-hmm. And I know that I've had probably more no's than yeses if you actually start boiling it down. When I had my acting agent on a few weeks ago, she was talking, you usually have 80 auditions before you can book one thing. That's usually the industry standard.
100%. That's true.
You get so many no's. And I've asked people before, have you ever thought about doing this? No. Have you ever tried this? No, we don't want to. I mean, The first year, especially the first 2 years of this, was just nobody knew who I was. I had no traction. There was no very much anything. And so it was like, no. And they said, how do you figure out what God is telling you? And I was like, it's the person who says yes. It's so few and far between. Yeah. And so talk to us a little bit about how you push through those moments where you're like, I know God has called me to do this. I know God has sent this and he wants me to pursue this, but everybody around me keeps telling me, no, I don't see the clear path forward. Talk to us a little bit about how you manage that.
Yeah. I cannot. Okay. So as a shy person who deals with clinical anxiety, I'm always anxious about the no. The no is inevitable. You're going to get the no's. I mean, and that's something, learning that you have to learn that is not personal. And one of the ways that I describe that, and this is not my original thing, I've heard somebody else say something similar, and this is kind of the way I describe it is, a painter has in their mind what colors they want to put on to the painting. They have a certain shade of blue. There's a million shades of blue, different hues of blue, those kind of things. They're looking for the specific one. you just may not be that shade. You're just as beautiful. You are just as useful, but that's not what they were looking for. So they're going to use that for now. You'll get to be on a painting later, and you get to be in somebody's creation later. And I have to remind myself that. And then I have to go back, to what God said, we are God's handiwork. And I'm not even playing when I think about, God sets the standard for creativity. He is the creator. And there are so many different avenues and things out there. I mean, think about all the animals. I'm a huge animal lover. Okay. I love every kind of animal. And I get so cracked up when I look at how he's created them and just how much fun he had to have. We're just as unique, and there's a place for us. And we have to remember that, there are places and platforms for us. And sometimes, like, I'll be really honest with you. I have found myself to not have a platform in certain Christian places. Places where I don't fit.
We're getting a little closer to the screen now.
Yeah, I don't fit their standard, okay? And that's probably the one that can be the most painful, is when it's within the church and you hear a no. But the same rule applies. It's not your moment. It's not your time. God sets the timing, and we just have to be patient in that. And so that's when you got to dig in. And for me, I struggle with the rut. I want to get down in the rut, so I can't allow that to take root for very long. Allow it, and deal with it, because it's disappointment, and that's a normal emotion. And then after that, you got to get out and start making even more opportunities. You go like you do. You go down to the sidewalk. You go down and you find some place and you say, okay, I'm going to make my own platform. Honestly, that's where stand-up came from, Erskin. The acting with the pandemic, acting and everything was shut down. There were no opportunities. They weren't making new films, new anything at the time. And I had already been dabbling and going through a little coaching and stuff like that. And I thought, no, I don't have to worry about casting anymore. I don't have to worry about content anymore. I will write my own content. And when you're a stand-up, you cast yourself, And so I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. You're a music artist. It's very similar. Then we have to find the platform. And those are the things that's the toughest part. But if we have to, we go out to the sidewalk. I'm going to use you as an example.
What's crazy about that is you get two creatives on here. And for those of you who are watching us, like we didn't talk prior to this. We've been sending text messages to one another, but we get on here and it's like, I can sense your creative energy. I've got that same kind of creative energy that's going. It's like, why don't we put together sometime an open door show where I can play some music, you can do some stand up. We have the PA. It's in a non-offensive way, but we have maybe tips set out, some contact information aside. We kind of set up an array of things that are around people. Maybe we have somebody that's on site that's also, with a merch table or something. Just, hey, people coming up, information table, if you want to call it that, where people are like, what is this? And it's like the Rock and Road Show, like literally the Rock and Road Show, because it's going to be on this street corner, then it's going to be on that street corner tomorrow, and then it's going to be in this part of town. And you start advertising that. And so, I mean, we can go offline and talk about that, but I can. The creatives. You bring your guitar, I'll bring my stool and my bottled water or whatever,
Exactly. Every comic, that's what they have. I'll tell you a little tip. You know what I learned? When you see somebody who they have their stool and they have their bottled water, every stand-up will have it. I never even knew this. Okay. But have you ever lost train of thought? Do you ever forget what you're saying in the middle of something? Stand-up.
Absolutely. About 5 times this show already.
Yes. Stand-ups do that a lot. Well, you have your bottled water sitting on that stool for a reason, because it takes about 5 to 6 seconds for your brain to like reconnect to that thought. So if you lose your thought, then you're just like, and it gives you just a second to reclaim that thought. So that's what's
fake it until you make it.
We're not just thirsty, we're actually thinking, oh my goodness, what was I saying?
I love it. Maybe that's why pastors do the same thing. And
maybe
I think as a musician, I should have the bottle of water and just kind of drink from the bottle of water and just, what song do I play next? I don't know.
That's right. So,
that's amazing. Hey, there was something else that you said.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of freestyling, going off this whole.
I think we freestyled the entire time. So.
Actually, I would be embarrassed to tell you that I have a whole page of notes up there about things that the way that I thought this was going to go, which is not the way that it's going to go, but this is far better than what I thought it was going to go. And so you just go with it, just roll with it. The Lord is doing something here. He's working in some people's hearts. But I remember when I got to Nashville, just thinking about some of the no's that I received. And there were people that I really appreciated, people who would make the comment, hey, you would come and you'd play for this label, or you would come and you would do this show or showcase, listening room, different things like that. And they would say, hey man, you really did a great job. Continue doing what you're doing. You're just not what we're looking for at this time. And I could internalize that and process that, because you're right. Sometimes people are looking for what they're looking for. And if that's not exactly what you're doing, you don't have to feel bad about the fact that, they're doing what they're doing. You're doing what you're doing. That's not your time. That's not your place. That's not the area and the direction that you need to go. And so it's easier to discern instead of going, I need to call you next week, and you just maybe didn't hear me right, and I need to send you all this information. I need to prove to you that I am actually what you're looking for.
But I'm very good.
I actually can play my instrument. I actually can sing a little bit. And instead of doing that, I think sometimes we get, that we internalize that no too much, and we process that. We think, hey, we need to push through. We need to, if they didn't take the first demo, we need to send them another demo and just throw that one away too. And so that's kind of been my experience. But there was also some times that, and I don't know how you get motivated by things. My wife and I were talking about this. I get motivated sometimes when I receive a no, and it's kind of like, I don't know, almost a disrespectful no, because then it challenges me to go, yeah, but
you're gonna regret that no.
You're gonna eat that no a little bit later. And I remember meeting somebody in the music industry, and they heard me play, and I sang a couple of songs with them, and they were gracious enough to listen in the early days. And they said, Erskin, you are remarkably average, and average just doesn't really cut it in this town. And so you need to go and work on a variety of things if you hope to have any kind of career in this. And then they left. And man, about a year later, I came back with my first Nashville album, and they listened to it, and they listened to a song, and then they listened to another song and another song, and they listened to the entire album, and they were like, wow, what just happened? Like in the course of a year, you did every single thing that I thought you needed to do to become a professional at this. And he just said, bravo. Like my hat's off to you, because I give people that advice all the time and they never listen. You actually listen. But for me, that was kind of one of those fires. And I still a little bit kind of have a chip on my shoulder. I think that's okay to have a little bit of a holy chip on your shoulder, because, I'm not going to be promoted by all the, major labels and, radio play and all those different things. But sometimes people who are in that industry, we can tell some trade secrets. People who are in that industry, they're not doing all that well. You might hear their song on the radio, but they're still working at Starbucks because, doing interviews, radio, have your song play on the radio, that doesn't pay anybody's bills.
Right.
Going out and playing shows like I've been doing for the last 8 years, that actually helps feed your family.
Yeah. That's a really good word right there. But what you just shared is true. When I was in college, when I was in graduate school, actually, I was working and taking graduate classes, and one of the professors that I actually highly respected had picked up on that I was slacking a little bit as a grad student. I didn't realize that I was just trying to survive. I had a family and I was one in grad school. And he said, I need to talk to you after class. And then he says, I have 3 words with you. I am not impressed. That was all I needed, really.
Woo.
Back into gear. It was someone I respected. Saying I am not, he was very, in the content area, he was well respected, is what I mean. And those are the motivators. Those are the things that get you, because I think honestly, that's how I went through and got my doctoral degree, because I was like, okay, not impressed. We're going to go. Let's go,
Yeah. It's motivation is a funny thing. I was watching, our lives are probably very similar in a lot of different ways, but I was watching some motivational speeches last night, and I don't know, certain people go down certain click holes. If anything on YouTube is going to get me, it's going to be motivational speakers.
Okay.
I click on one motivational speech and I'll watch that and I'm like, I'm so motivated. I got to watch another motivational. And like a couple of hours later, it's like, I'm still watching motivational speeches. It's time to go and do something. That's probably why I was up at 5 o'clock this morning waiting for the show to start, because I was so motivated. Like something's about to happen. Something good's about to happen. And so you have these motivators that take place in your life. And it's funny because my wife is kind of the polar opposite. She knows that there's been times in her life where people said, no, I don't think you're really good at something, or I don't really think you're going to be able to do something. And it's kind of debilitated her and caused her to completely shift course. And so there are those motivators that actually enhance your performance and enhance your desire. And then there are some of those demotivators that people tell you is like, oh yeah, you'll never be able to do this. It kind of, it causes certain people to shrink, and it causes, other areas of our life to maybe shy away from the challenge.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the psychology is, but behind all of that, but I think, being a Christian, understanding God's direction and all of that is primary. It's key. It's clutch.
Oh yeah. And I just go back to the different creatives, and we all have different jobs that we do. I have a day job. I call my day job fundraising. I took off this morning. I took vacation time. I'm not wasting my day job time, but I call it fundraising because I will give it 100% while I'm there, and then when I'm not there, I'm giving this 100%.
Yeah.
And I will go, really quickly.
That's awesome.
We've all been called to do things, but in Exodus. And this is just talking about the tribes, in Exodus. And this is what I thought about last night that I wanted to share. It says, he has filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, with all kinds of skills to make artistic designs, for working in gold, silver, and bronze, to cut, set stones, to work with wood, to engage in all kinds of artistic craft. He has also put it in his heart to teach. And it says he's filled them with skills to perform every works of an engraver, a designer, embroider. Goes on, talks about the different colors, works with materials and fine linens, weavers, as performers of every work and makers of designs. And I think, man, and that's setting about, that's talking about the tribes, and kind of what
was that Bezalel or Aholiab? Was that Bezalel or Aholiab?
Yes, exactly. And when you see how specific, you see those specific things in scripture that say, no, this person was set aside to do this. This tribe was set aside to do this. And they're all very different and creative. It made me think of, I had a friend from church that made me this. I don't know if you can see that, but it's leather.
I got you. I can
He's
see.
gotten into leather work. And he actually, it's got the Christian fish on it, and it says good fun, because as a clean comedian, that's what I said. He said, what do you want on there? I said, good fun, because it reminds me that I'm to set out with my comedy needs to be good fun, only setting my eyes on good things, and being clean and things like that. But just knowing specifically that God has set people apart to be creative is very inspiring to me.
Yes.
So
I love that. I'm taking away from this interview that whole notion of fundraising, working a job, fundraising, so you can do the creative thing that God has created you to be able to do.
Yeah.
I like to, I've heard somebody use the term entrepreneur. There's an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur, and entrepreneur is a person who they will take work from another source because it feeds the source that they are entrepreneuring. And I've always loved that concept, and I've always tried to put around me a team of entrepreneurs, because I can't hire a full-time team and staff and videography and producers, and so it's kind of a work for hire thing. But I like to try to find people who are also creative, that are working on projects themselves, who already kind of have that bent, who can join in the process and say, okay, I can pay you to do this over here because that helps further you along in what it is that you're trying to do. And so we enter into an entrepreneurial relationship as an entrepreneur. And so it helps me to discern sometimes when people ask me and they say, hey, we want you to come and be the pastor of this or the CEO of this. And it's like, that's not quite what my vision is. I can only help you periodically, and I can only help you sporadically, because my vision is to do this. Now, if your vision partners with my vision, then we can work together. But if you want me to abandon my vision and then just go over here and do this, then that's not a relationship that I need to continue in that regard.
Oh, that's good. And I also think that you and I, people who are creative, or anybody who's creative, we need to surround ourselves with those people who are who are the behind the scenes organized people for sure. You need that. But then
Mm.
also
Hallelujah.
we have to be around other creatives. I am motivated by other creatives and I love sharing ideas and things like that. But iron does sharpen iron, and
Absolutely.
the creative iron, the metal of a creative is just different, and so we have to be around other creatives to just keep us going, I think.
Yeah. And one of the cool things about Nashville, and people will ask this all the time, is like,
Mhm.
how did you get out there and start doing music? And it's kind of like what you said at the beginning of the broadcast. You just get out and start doing music. Like
You
I
do it.
knew that there was a writers round on Monday, writers round on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I would take Wednesday off for church, or writers round on Thursday, and then whatever I could find on the weekends. And so
Mhm.
I was literally playing every night of the week that I possibly could, and
Mhm.
being in all these different creative circles. Now, a lot of it was country music, but then some
Yep.
of it was different rock music that was out there, and some was jazz, and just a variety of different things, but just constantly being at creatives. And I remember in those early days being at venues until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and just a few scant people that were in the audience and playing these songs out and trying to figure out, if I change this chorus, if I change this
Mhm.
melody, what will the song be like? And so it just really helped to kind of fuel this passion for how does the creative process work around other creatives.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been spending more time in Nashville, and I'm going to be spending more time in Nashville because that's where the majority of the open mics and opportunities and things like that are. It's just where the opportunities are.
Come
I,
on
will-
down.
I am. I was down there just a little while back, but I'm going to
You
be
didn't
coming a
even
lot
tell
more
me.
often. What's that?
You didn't even tell me.
The way I know, I don't. In my mind, I'm like, oh, they don't have time for that. you know.
If I'm in town, bro, I got time.
Okay. All right.
That's the
Well,
nature of kind of what it is that I do. Like if I'm gone, like there's nothing I can do. But when I'm home, man, I like to just, kids they're schooling right over there. I'm about to give them a history test here in just a second.
mm-hmm.
And I'm just, I'm gonna go eat lunch with my wife, and so I'm just around,
Yeah.
getting things
Okay.
done for the next tour and the next opportunity there. So if you need a place to stay, and I'm in town, man, you got a place to stay.
Well,
Like
I really
we got
appreciate
bunk
that.
beds. We can put the kids in one room. You have a room all to yourself. Bring the tired, poor, and weary. If you're out there and you're coming to Nashville, get in contact with me.
I'll say I really appreciate that. A lot of the times, to be quite honest, the stuff that I'm going to, it's got some pretty rough content, like I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, you talk about, I already feel like a fish out of water as a creative, but when you're our type of creative and you're in the middle of some other interesting creatives, man, I sometimes I look around and I'm like, do people see me here? But it's like no, but honestly, sometimes they're not interested in my kind of comedy. Do you know there are people that actually desire to be around gratuitous, unclean stuff? I mean, that's what they want. That's what they're like. Give us more of that gratuitous stuff. And
Oh, my friend, I can tell you stories because I'm in open mics, and it's an open mic.
you know what I'm
So
talking
I have
about.
heard the most blasphemous, godless songs
Mm-hmm.
that people
Yeah.
have penned, and they have written just from their own animus and their own angst.
Mm-hmm.
That I've listened to their songs, and
Yep.
they can listen to my songs.
Yeah, and the whole time, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, man, God loves him. God loves her. God, and so I am called to love that person too. And so, okay, maybe what's coming out of their mouth is not great, but you know what? God wants their heart. And so if I need to, build relationships in this atmosphere or this platform, that's where I'm going to be.
Sure.
So
Yeah, good word. Good word. Well, man, we could eat up an hour and no
I think we
amount of
did.
time. I was telling you, yeah, it's probably going to be about 30, 40 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Like, man, we get two creatives on here, and we've planned out a tour already. Uh,
Yeah, we did.
we've gotten advice on just about everything and talked about everything. Really quickly here on my notes, I just wanted to do this before we leave.
Sure.
You had talked to me about TC Stallings. There's some upcoming projects that you're a
Yeah.
part of. What does the future look like, and what can we be anticipating on the horizon?
Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah. 2 or 3 years ago, TC Stallings, I actually connected with him on Twitter after his movie War Room. And so we just kind of started just kind of batting back and forth a little bit, and then he let me know that he had, well, actually I was looking for something that was designed around coaching people who are believers or who want to do clean, what he calls uncompromising things.
Yep.
Because there's, a lot of arenas you can go into, and it's like, I don't mind being in certain arenas, but I'm not going to compromise in that arena. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yep.
And so anyway, so he
I'm in
created
acting as well, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, he created a coaching program called Uncompromised, and it's for anybody who is interested in Christian entertainment, specifically acting. But there's other people in there. I'm in there, and I've got acting and comedy and stuff. But who just want coaching, not only on acting specific, but coaching on how do you react in these various platforms that you're given, and how do you say no to things when you've been looking for opportunities, and all of that. And so he and I have become pretty good buddies, and we've brought in a bunch of people. It's his program. He and his wife Lavette, they are awesome. But look them up online. It's called Uncompromised Actor Coaching. It's on tcstallings.life. tcstallings.life. And there's a bunch of us that I think we started out, there was just a handful of us. Then there was like a solid core of like 20 people. And now I think we're like up to maybe, well, last count, I think there was like 34 or 40. But I
just signed up for the newsletter today. I'm going to go ahead and enroll in the class a little bit later.
Awesome. And we have an online community. I just started something called the Zoom altar. And so I go into the community and I say, hey, we're getting ready to pray. Anybody who wants to join us? The Zoom altar is open. Here's the link. And then we're like, what are you dealing with right now? What do you need to be prayed for about? So we're building a community of people who are interested in, clean, family-friendly, faith-based related kind of stuff. And so, yeah, come join us there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I put that up in the links. Yeah. One of the things that you said kind of harkens back to some of my early days in my acting classes. Really struggled in those classes because the kind of environment that is when it's secular method acting.
Sure.
It was the whole 9 yards. She expected us to prepare 8 hours, a week before we came back to class. And so, yeah, very different standards, morals, and ethics of people who were in that class. But one of the things I remember is, and I've recently been watching some of these videos of Denzel Washington's motivational speeches, and not to say one way or another where he stands theologically, but just from a motivational standpoint, he says that be careful of the first roles that you choose and how you portray yourself, because that's kind of where you're going to position yourself to be pigeonholed in the industry. And I know there's a lot of people who came from my acting class in Dallas who moved out to Los Angeles. And one of the things that they were confronted with is, if you're going to have a problem doing a sex scene, if you're going to have a problem doing a scene where there's gratuitous violence, then this is probably not the thing for you. And, especially as Christian actors and Christian entertainers, thinking through the fact that, man, there's some really big opportunities that are out there that people will pay you for, that will get your name out there, but they may not necessarily be a role that you should take because of the way that you're going to portray yourself and how other people might view that. And so constantly having to weigh those things out. There's another grid work that Christian entertainers go through than secular entertainers don't.
Oh, for sure. TC actually talks about that. I know that you got to go give a test in a minute, but TC actually talks about in his curriculum. He talks
my kids will wait.
If you have to, if you're going to have to on-screen kiss somebody, how do you handle that situation? He's like, I will only kiss my wife. That's the only person I will kiss. He said, but I've been in movies where you see me kiss somebody. How's that work? So he teaches methods on how you do that. And he explains to directors and other people of, okay, I see I have a kissing scene here. This is how this is going to go. It's going to look real. It's going to feel real, but I'm not kissing anybody but my wife, is what he would say. And so he shares all of that. It's really, really cool curriculum.
Wonderful. Chester, we could probably have a 2-hour conversation, but man, it's been great to have you on here. We need to do this again. You're a friend of the show, and our buddy Scott got a chance to tune in with some of this before he had to roll. Yep. And so I was hoping that he would be able to join us, and he was, and that made it all much more fun. And so for those of you guys who are tuning in today, if you missed any part of the show today, you can go back and watch this in its entirety. And there were just so many great lines that you gave, advice that you gave, encouragement that you gave, that if you're a creative, you'll definitely want to check this out. This is Chester Goad. His information is down there at the bottom of the screen. Check out his website, see his demo reel, see everything that he's involved in, and follow him on Facebook. What other platforms are you on?
Twitter. I'm on the Twitter, and I'm on Instagram as well.
And the gram. All right. So thank you so much, my friend.
All right. Thank you.
We will get in contact. We've got a lot of ideas that are out there on the table.
Yeah, for real.
So let's just start forming this is where the organization part of our mind needs to kick in
Mhm.
and figure out how to get me to that show that you were talking about. How
Oh
to
yeah,
get a
we need to get you in.
sidewalk series going on. And if
Mhm.
you're coming to Nashville, and if you're coming to Nashville regularly, let's look at doing some things together
Okay.
and hanging out.
Okay, sounds great.
All right,
Thanks,
my
sir.
friend.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care. God bless. All right, that was Chester Goad hanging out with us today on the Erskin Music Show, and just a light smattering of Erskin music that's there. But you guys know, just bring me to an event. I'll ball out, whatever it is. So that was fantastic content. I'm just going to have to give that episode the gold standard in terms of what you need to hear as a creative to keep yourself motivated, to keep yourself connected with the Lord, to keep yourself moving forward, to recognize how unique you are and how God has given you a platform, no matter how big or small that is. Be faithful where God has put you. All right, the Erskin Music Show is about to sign off. That's that. Thank you guys so much for your comments. The comment section is turned on to the end of the show. And I will say, here, I need to do this. I need to do this before I get off of here. People worked hard to be able to provide this content. And for those of you who want to find more content, you can subscribe to the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. It's been the Erskin Music Show. Appreciate you guys. The Way Forward Show is coming to you this weekend, special edition of that. And you will not want to miss that. We're barreling down on some of the final weeks of the Erskin Music Show. So it's going to just increase in its intensity and its power and its glory until we finally reach the pinnacle. And then we'll take the summer off and then we'll come back, Lord willing, in the fall. And so you guys keep watching, keep tuning in, keep telling your friends about the Erskin Music Show, subscribe, and keep those notifications going. Hey, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. It's the Erskin Music Show.